Unfortunately, the issue still persists with the image not basically the camera not being able to be shown together with the slides. So I don't know uh, if it's a Zoom issue or the Keynote issue because I'm using Apple's Keynote, so I don't know where the issues are. But I think basically I'll figure out another way to be able to do that instead of relying on Zoom's own application. I think we still have we're already at 1. I was expecting more people, but maybe because we're actually not off. I recorded 2 of our classes for the previous 2 weeks when I was in Taiwan, but I think maybe because of that reason, not a lot of people show up today. We're free, yay! Together with us in person. Okay, right. So I think we're already at 1. And I think we should start with our class. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, in whichever time zone you are. And this is, I believe, our 5th class. And today we will be... Oh, there's transition. Okay. So today we'll be talking about meditation. So in the previous 4 classes, we've always been talking about the precepts, morality, ethics, and now in this 5th chapter, we will be starting to talk about meditative concentration. That is, in Chinese Buddhism, we call it 禅定. And so the title of this chapter, The World of Chan, it's basically trying to describe the origins of the meditative concentration. And so, let me see. Yep. And over here, our Venerable Master starts by saying, when we talk about meditation, we're always talking about developing the power of meditative concentration, our ability to focus. And it's only through the power of meditative concentration that we can face the 8 winds of life. So 8 winds is a very common term that we use, especially in Chinese Buddhism, in a lot of the standards in Chinese. And this 8 winds, it comes in pairs. So there's gain and loss, defamation and honor, praise and ridicule, sorrow and joy. So it's like 2 extremes. And today I've talked about this concept of half and half in our English chanting here in Xinlai Temple. And half and half is a concept that our Venerable Master had always talked about in his lifetime. And he said that in this world, it's always half and half. There's half good, half bad, half joy, half sorrow, half gain, half loss. So it's always half and half. And this is the same with the 8 winds. And if we're able to use this power, we won't be too caught up with this different winds. For example, you won't be blown over to this side and blown over to that side when you are faced with this different situations. So that why the reason it's called 8 winds, because it moves you in different directions and different states of emotion. And if we're able to be mindful and be able to concentrate, we won't be affected by them. And those who have the power of meditative concentrations will be unmoved by either anger or joy and will not be encumbered by happiness or suffering. So if you're able to be mindful, you recognize it, you won't be affected by it. So those who are successfully practice meditation, can engage in wisdom within their intrinsic nature, their Buddha nature, such that they will be free from worry and fear, and even in the face of death. So this is life at its best, at its happiest, most carefree. This is a life that is free and liberated. So how do we access this power of meditative concentration? So in the Chinese word, meditative concentration is made up of two characters, that is 禅定. And so the two different words are very commonly found together. They're always mentioned together as 禅定. But their meaning are slightly different. So 禅, which is the word for Chan, also known as Zen in Japanese, and it refers to the practice of meditation. But Chan, however, does not only refer to just the sitting meditation, but all the moments of life which are infused with the different flavors of meditative mind. And the word Ding, on the other hand, refers to the focusing the mind entirely upon a single point. For example, when you're instructed to practice the mindfulness of the breath, you'll be instructed to put your focus on this one point at the tip of your nose and between the nostrils when you are counting and being mindful of the breath. And so if we're able to do that, such a way it has no more distraction and will lead us to reach a state of serene equanimity. And within the treatise of the perfection of wisdom, this is a really important commentary in Chinese Buddhism. Meditative concentration is the settling of all distracting thoughts. So if we are able to imagine the mind constantly in an unsettled way, an agitated state, in a state of chaos, meditative concentration is the tool that will enable all these distracting thoughts, all these chaotic thoughts to settle itself. And so meditative concentration allows us to let go of our worries and to purify our minds so that we can awaken to the way, we can be able to awaken to the path. And so this is the method by which we can settle the mind into samadhi. And samadhi is also another word for meditative concentration. Samadhi is a state of absorption, a concentrated state of the mind, where it can abide in equanimity. Meditative concentration can energize the mind so that it is unmoved by external circumstances and it is able to see the intrinsic nature within ourselves. So within this chapter, we see a lot of mention about equanimity. Equanimity is just that you won't be moved by the eight winds. You won't be moved by the gains or loss, the joys of sorrow. You're in a constantly equanimous state of mind. So this state of mind is achievable through meditative concentration or mindfulness. And meditation has always been a part of all Buddhist schools from the very beginning. Even during the time of the Buddha, meditation was prevalent throughout India's religious landscape. So every kind of religious sect that exists in ancient India during the Buddhist time, they practice one sort of meditation or the other. And when Buddhism came to China, the founding masters of Chan Buddhism took the Indian emphasis on mental tranquility and brought it into everyday life. So when we talk about Chan, we talk about meditative concentration, it's not just sitting meditation. It's not just walking meditation. It's not just a certain type of meditation, but every aspect of our daily life. So this created a blend of meditation that was both passive as well as active, which later developed into a Chinese style of a kind of practical meditation that we can use in every aspects of our life. And it had a great influence on Chinese culture itself. And so I like to talk about a word, a concept that is called 公案. So a 公案, it's a very common word that's used in both Chan Buddhism as well as Zen Buddhism. A 公案 or koan in Japanese is the story of an encounter between Chan practitioners that reveals some truth about the Chan wisdom. So many gongans, whichever way that you like to pronounce it, record the short and somewhat playful exchange between the great Chan masters of the past and their own disciples, and are remembered and thus contemplated practice by Chan Buddhists even until today. So the word Gong An in the Chinese language, it basically means a public case. So you can say it's a case study, it's a story that's been told again, and again, and has been used as a precedence, as a case study for later generations when they're practicing Chan Buddhism. So it's like a story that been told a lot of times in history. Is a case study. And so the oldest of all the Gong'an in Chan school is called holding forth a flower and responding with a smile. And so this story tells the origin of the Chan school. So it's like the origin story of Chan Buddhism. So one day while the Buddha was at the Vulture's Peak in ancient India, there was a Brahma king that came to see him. And this Brahma king gave the Buddha a golden flower and offered himself as a throne so that the Buddha can sort of sit on him. It's a way to show respect, and imploring the Buddha to teach the Dharma so that all living beings would be able to benefit from it. And the Buddha, of course, accepted that and ascended atop the Brahma king and held up the golden flower so that the entire assembly could see it. And the assembly was composed of not just humans, but also celestial beings that came from the heaven. And they all looked at one another, sort of confused about what the Buddha is trying to say, what he's trying, what is all the meaning, unable to understand the meaning behind the Buddha's action. But only one of the Buddha's disciple, the venerable Mahakasyapa, the elder Mahakasyapa, understood what the Buddha meant. And from this understanding, from being able to connect it to the meaning that the Buddha is trying to show him, he smiled. He gave up a smile. And from there, the Buddha said this: I have the treasury of the true Dharma I, the wondrous mind of the Nirvana, the true reality without form. It is a profound teaching that is not set down in words, but is a separate transmission beyond the teachings. This I entrust to the elder Mahakasyapa. So what this stanza means is that in Chan Buddhism, there is a sort of teaching that is not set, that is not written down in words, it's not set in stone, but is a separate transmission, a heart-to-heart, a mind-to-mind transmission that you just understand from this direct teaching, this direct instruction from mind to mind. And so this he entrusts and thus pass this lineage to Mahakasyapa. And so the Chan school traces its origin back to this initial transmission of the Dharma to Mahakasyapa by the Buddha at the Vulture's Peak Assembly. And so the teaching were transmitted from generations to generations up until the Master Bodhidharma, which is the 28th patriarch of Chan Buddhism that came to China and became the first Chinese patriarch. So all of the Chinese Chan Buddhist lineage would trace their tradition, trace their lineage back to Bodhidharma, which is this person over here. And you can see how the lineage is has been represented by all these different generations, different names. We see first here is the elder Mahakashyapa, and over the generation up until the 28th, we see over here is the master Bodhidharma, who came to China and became the first patriarch of the Chinese Buddhism. And after Bodhidharma, those who succeeded in that order is the Master Huike, the second, Seng Chan, Dao Xing, and Hong Ren, who is the fifth patriarch of Chan Buddhism. And during the time of Master Hong Ren, or the fifth Chan patriarch, of course, he lived during the 7th century. And in his story, he had two prominent disciples. One is Master Sheng Xiu, and the other is Master Huineng. And so Sheng Xiu had been the fifth patriarch, or Hong Ren's leading disciple, for many years. And when he was being asked to affirm his enlightenment by writing a poem, it's basically a tradition in Chinese Buddhism. And a lot of times when you want to show your own state of enlightenment, you will compose a stanza or a poem to show your enlightenment through it. So he composed the following verse, but although he had do it sort of sneakily at the middle of the night, he just went out to the courtyard and just write his poem on the wall, so that when anything goes wrong, if people found that, well, this is not such a good poem, he doesn't need to be responsible for it. And so he composed the following verse: the body is a Bodhi tree, the mind is like a bright standing mirror. Diligently I clean it at all times, so that it doesn't. So it looks okay. It looks perfect. I mean, this is how a lot of Buddhists would practice it. We treat our body and mind respectfully. We practice and we clean it all the time, so that we will be able to eventually reach towards enlightenment. It looks good. Nothing wrong about it. But that at that time, there was this commoner, or this Master Huineng, who is still a lay person at that time. He's still not an ordained monk, who came from the southern part of China, who suddenly became enlightened when he heard one of the fifth patriarch student reciting a part of the Diamond Sutra. And he thus wanted to go and see Master Hong Ren, and so he stayed at his temple. And having seen Sheng Xiu's poem, of course, at that time, he doesn't know who is the person who wrote that. But at that time, the fifth patriarch, or Master Hong Ren, came and have a look at this poem, and he said that, well, this poem is good, but I don't think this person is enlightened yet. And so said, okay, this is good enough, and everyone should learn from this. We should do as such, but doesn't say anything more than that. But when Master Huineng heard this poem, he said to himself, well, I can write something better. So, and he was actually illiterate at that time, so he heard it from someone else. So he took someone who was able to write and tell him, okay, please write this down for me beside the poem or the stanza being composed by Master Sheng Xiu. And so he wrote down, essentially, Bodhi is not a tree. The bright mirror is also not a stand. Inherently, there is nothing. So where can the dust alight, or where can it attract dust at all? So this stanza itself shows a deeper understanding into the concept of emptiness, of there is nothing that we call a Bodhi tree, because there was no Bodhi tree when it's not called that way. A Bodhi tree is only called a Bodhi tree after the Buddha's enlightenment. And the fig tree that the Buddha had set at the bottom of it, that sat under, became known as Bodhi tree because of the Buddha's enlightenment. So Bodhi is essentially not a tree. And the bright mirror is also not a stand. A mirror is put on the stand to be used by people, like it provides convenience in that way, but essentially a mirror is not a stand as well. It's put on a stand to be used in that way, but a mirror can be carried with you and to be used in different ways. So essentially, a bright mirror is also not a stand. Inherently, there is nothing. So this shows an understanding or acknowledgement of the concept of emptiness in Mahayana Buddhism. So if there is nothing, then where does the dust set? Where does the dust rest? How can you attract dust when there's nothing? And so if it doesn't attract dust, then why are you cleaning it all the time? And so the next day, when the fifth patriarch came and read this poem, he was kind of shocked, as in, I didn't know that there was someone else within this temple that have this kind of understanding. But after realizing this, after realizing there was someone that are able to surpass his greatest disciple, he actually used his shoe. He removed his shoe and sort of just smear across it and said that, okay, this is nothing much. Just look away. It's not really a great poem, but in his mind, he know that there is someone else that is in his temple that is worthy of being like his successor. And so he told Huineng to come to his room at the middle of the night, and he taught the rest of the Diamond Sutra. He recited the rest of the Diamond Sutra to him. And there was one stanza that inspired Master Huineng so much that he became enlightened just at that spot. So you can see like there is this difference in the potential of between Master Huineng and Master Songxiu. But we will sort of fast forward a little bit. So, but this story is actually being recorded in the Platform Sutra, the Six Patriarchs Platform Sutra. And if you're really interested in knowing the whole story, it's actually in the first chapter of the Platform Sutra. Okay, so let's fast forward. So Master Huineng's poem show that he was enlightened and is able to see his own intrinsic nature, that is his Buddha nature. And of course, in the story later that night, Master Hongren transmitted the Dharma to Master Huineng in secret in the middle of the night in his own room and named him the sixth patriarch of Chan Buddhism. So essentially, he was enlightened at this spot, and Master Huineng just passed on his robe and his bowl to him, and it's a sign that he passed the Dharma to him, and hence he is the sixth patriarch of Chan school. But of course, Master Huineng said that your conditions are not right yet. You couldn't be able, I couldn't publicly announce you as the sixth patriarch, but instead you need to be in exile for a certain amount of years before you can come out of this exile and be able to start to transmit Buddhism. So that is also inside the Platform Sutra. But Huineng's teaching emphasized that we all have the intrinsic Buddha nature, and that enlightenment can occur suddenly, just like his case. He doesn't go through a lot of training, a lot of formal training, but just by listening to the stanzas of the Diamond Sutra, he is able to be enlightened. And on the other hand, Master Songxiu taught that enlightenment was possible only through a gradual practice. You need a longer time and gradually be able to accumulate all these sort of minor enlightenment so that eventually you'll be able to get to the full enlightenment. So these are two perspectives of in Chan Buddhism, that how a person could eventually be able to reach towards enlightenment. But Master Sheng Shi will continue to be a prominent disciple during his lifetime. And it was from Master Huineng that the Chan school, the Chan Buddhism of China Chinese Buddhism is able to flourish in ancient China, and leading to what we call the 5 houses and 7 schools that we know today. And so what are the 5 houses and 7 schools? So this is like a direct screenshot, a photograph of what we have in the book that we have for all living beings. And as we can see over here, this is Master Huineng as the 6th patriarch. He passed on to different pass on his teachings to different disciples. One is Huairang, the other is Xing Si. And from there, after several generations, there came to be 5 houses, which are Weiyang, Lingji, Yunmen, Caodong, and Fayan. And from Lingji, there's also 2 sub-schools. They're called Huanglong and Yangqi. And so if we add all these together, there's 5 houses, which are in bold, and including these 2 sub-schools of Huanglong and Yangqi, there are 7 schools in total. So it's always called the 5 houses and the 7 schools of Chan Buddhism. And for our temple, Xilai Temple, we belong to the Lingji lineage. And our founder, the Venerable Master, is the 48th patriarch of Lingji Buddhist 49th generation. And Lingji in Japanese is called Rinzai, for those that are familiar with Zen Buddhism. And Caodong is called Soto in Japanese Buddhism. These are like the 2 most popular schools of Zen Buddhism. In I think so for those who have a question, I think it's best for us to leave until the end of our class. So I'll just going to move forward. So although the teaching of Chan School are known as a separate transmission beyond the teachings, beyond the written words, which cannot be set down in words, we should not disregard language or words entirely. Even Master Huineng himself said, if people say that sutra do not function through words, then there is no reason to have language. But language itself, which is formed by words, and people also say that the direct teaching are not established through words. But all of this, if you notice, not and establish are also words. I think what this sentence over here, what it's trying to say, what the Venerable Master is trying to say is, we shouldn't be confined by concepts. We shouldn't be confined by the words. And if we are limiting ourselves with this different language and this different words, we are not able to look outside the box. And so what Chan Buddhism is encouraging us is to see outside the box and really think creatively, as in there are all these different paths that we can take for us to be able to reach towards enlightenment. So the Chan school does not suggest that we should not rely on the sutras at all. And in fact, in Chan Buddhist temples, we chant the sutras all the time. You can see it in our services, and even if you've joined in with our English chanting, we are chanting the Heart Sutra, or the 8 realizations of a great man all the time. So we do chant sutras, but what it means instead is that we should never be dogmatic about the sutras. We should not be confined by these doctrines, by these principles, but we should look we should be able to look beyond it. And enlightenment is like the moon. This is a very popular metaphor that has been used. Let me just minimize this. Is a really popular metaphor that's been used in the different sutras, and the sutra are like a finger pointing towards the moon. So we must realize that the sutra, or the language that conveys the idea of enlightenment itself, are not enlightenment. It is not enlightenment. By understanding the sutra itself is not enough for you to reach enlightenment. You should do something more. But it is something that helps to lead us to understand the mind and how can we see our own intrinsic nature. So the sutras, or the language, can be said as a finger pointing towards the moon. When someone is pointing towards the moon, they are not telling you, hey, look at my finger. No, they are saying, please look at the moon. So instead of focusing too much on the finger, we should put our time and effort towards understanding and looking at the moon. And so this is a very common metaphor that's been used all the time by the sutras. And so this is the same, well, we should do the same as, and we should really see beyond the words and look at the meanings of the sutras. And so in order to liberate the world, the Buddha and the ancient sages, ancient masters would enthusiastically give talks and compose texts, as well as praise and comment upon previous teachings. So when they are commenting on this previous teachings or the sutras that have been taught by the Buddha, we call those commentaries or treatises. So there are several ones. The treatise of perfection of wisdom is one of the larger ones in Mahayana Buddhism. And for this reasons, countless volumes of Chan sayings and Gongans have been compiled over the years. So although Chan Buddhism is saying that we should not rely on language, but the volume of language that they left behind is actually more than other schools of Buddhism. So that is it's kind of funny in that way. But although Chan school may go by many different names and appear in different forms, they all share the same spirit and focus. So we talk about different lineages, and even this chart over here is showing the different transmission of Chinese Buddhism into its Japanese counterpart over at the bottom of the lineage. So it starts with Bodhidharma and goes to Master Huineng, and then goes to different lineages in the Japanese Zen Buddhism. So with the modern discovery of Chan texts at different archaeological sites, including Dunhuang in China, academic circles have slowly starting to treat Chan studies more seriously. They look deeper into the Chan school. And also internationally renowned scholars like Hu Shi or Lu Cheng, even the Professor D.T. Suzuki, began devoting themselves to the study of Chan or Zen. And so the 20th century has seen an upsurge in the interests of Chan or Zen studies that began in mainland China and had also swept across all of Europe and America. And so any discussion of meditation will generally involve the discussion of a certain type of sitting meditation. But however, true meditation does not lie in the formal practice of sitting meditation. Sitting meditation is a good training ground for us to to be able to be mindful, but it is not all of meditation. It's not all of meditative concentration. Of course, it lies in the developing the energy in the mind, the ability to focus. To practice meditation, we must focus on stopping delusion and seeing truth. that is to be able to be mindful and seeing the true state of our existence, our consciousness, as well as equally developing both meditative concentration and wisdom. So when we are talking meditative concentration, it's the training of us able to concentrate and focus our mind. So eventually, after practicing meditative concentration, we will be a much more calmer person. We will be able to sit for prolonged periods of time. We will be able to concentrate. We will be in an absorbed state for a prolonged period of time. But that is not the goal of practicing meditation. We should practice meditation with both meditative concentration. We're able to concentrate ourselves as well as contemplate upon the true state of our experiences, of our consciousness, of our existence. And from there, when you start to reflect upon your thoughts, your emotions, your experience, and you sort of juxtapose that and really examine that with the teaching that you had learned, that had been taught by the Buddha, that had been taught in the sutra, you will be able to gradually develop wisdom, which is the intrinsic nature that we have in all of us. So meditation, the role of meditation should actually be able to equally develop both our meditative concentration and wisdom. It should be done equally this way. Without meditative concentration, you won't be focused enough to be able to understand the teaching of the Buddha. And if you're not focusing on trying to understand the teaching of the Buddha, you're not focusing on wisdom, then you might just dwell in the calmness that this meditative concentration, this process of meditation give you, and you just dwell in there. And it's a good feeling. And if you're able to practice it, yes. But if you dwell in it for a long period of time, you're not gaining any wisdom. You're not developing your own wisdom. And therefore, it's seen as a waste in the Buddhist teaching. So we should practice both meditative concentration and wisdom. So stopping delusion is what it means is using meditation to put an end to all deluded thoughts that we have in our minds. Therefore, in meditation, we should use the opportunity to examine our thoughts and to examine our mind, and so that the mind is concentrated on a single point. And seeing truth means using meditation to open our mind to the true wisdom, which is our intrinsic nature, so that all phenomena can be seen correctly and the bonds of affliction can be eliminated. And so thus stopping delusion suggests a sort of passive defense and has more to do with meditative concentration, while seeing truth is more of an active work of construction, a constructive work that is more closely aligned to the development of wisdom. So we see two parts of it. One is stopping delusion, stop your mind from going crazy, like chaotic all the time. And the other part is an active work of seeing truth in all of this phenomenon, all of our thoughts, that all this experience that we have. And thus, we're able to develop wisdom from that process. And so these two are actually it's very different, but they are also inseparable. Meditative concentration should be seen as the essence of wisdom, and wisdom is the function of meditative concentration. So if we're able to use our wisdom, it's actually easier for us to concentrate. We understand the Dharma, we understand the teaching, we're able to calm ourselves much more easier and faster. But wisdom is also the function of meditative concentration. When you're mindfulness enough, even when you are out of the meditation hall, out of your sitting meditation, you're able to use this mindfulness in your daily life. And hence, you are able to respond towards all the matters in life in a much more wise way. And hence, this is the function of meditation, meditative concentration. It presents itself as wisdom. So both must be practiced so that meditative concentration and wisdom can come together, and thus delusion can be eliminated, and then truth or enlightenment can be realized. So Chan is the original nature of all living beings. And that being said, meditative concentration cannot be attained just through sitting meditation, because sitting meditation alone does not necessarily lead towards Buddhahood. As being said, if you just read the sutras, that doesn't necessarily make you a Buddha. So sitting meditation, if you just sit and practice meditative concentration, you will enjoy the calmness, the Dharma joy. But if you do not use that opportunity to be able to examine all the dharmas, then that wouldn't lead you towards Buddhahood. And so a metaphor that has been used in Chan Buddhism is that just by polishing a tile or a piece of rock will never ever make that tile or that rock into a mirror, because no matter how much you polish it, it wouldn't be a perfect mirror that you can see yourself inside of it. So this is also actually a gong'an that had been used by an old master trying to teach his young disciple that is constantly meditating and say that what you're doing when you're meditating, I'm trying to become a Buddha. So the old master just picked up a brick tile and just rubbed itself against a rock. And this young disciple just asked, Master, what you're doing? Why do you rub this brick against a rock? He said, I'm polishing it to become a mirror. And the young disciple said, well, you cannot make a mirror out of a brick or a tile. That could never happen. So the old master answered, well, it's the same like sitting meditation. When you're just sitting in meditation and do nothing, you will never become a Buddha. So it's the same idea, the same concept behind. But however, meditative concentration through cultivation, and it can be cultivated through sitting meditation, and it still remains the introductory methods for most of the beginners. But ultimately, it should be used in our daily life. Chan Buddhism is intimately connected with our normal or everyday lives. And in this complex and confusing modern society, we must use the power of meditative concentration to stabilize our erratic minds and unsettled bodies so that we can truly achieve towards enlightenment through the equal practice of both meditative concentration and also wisdom. And so today's class is until here. So, okay, the question that you have just now, you forgot about it? Okay, let's rewind a bit. So I believe it's on this slide. We're talking about the schools.
Yeah, he said that our book was something
48.
No.
Okay. Yeah, he's the 48th patriarch. And we are the 49th generation in the Lingji school over here. So, okay, any other questions that anyone would like to ask? We have a lot of time for today. Anyone online that would like to ask a question, you could raise your hand. if you have a question. Okay, so how's everyone taking this concept of meditative concentration so far? Can I have a show of hands of who had taken the meditation class in the morning? Oh, most of us. So how are we feeling so far? Are we able to sort of feel like the Dharma joy or the calmness that this meditation brings? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. Yeah. The goal is meditation, of course, is to develop our intrinsic nature, our Buddha nature. And of course, in this class, we get to understand that it's both meditative concentration and also the development of wisdom. So meditation is seen like a more passive process, as in you're just sitting there. But it's not just sitting there. You have to do work with your mind. You sort of have to examine the teachings. And when you start to examine the teaching with it, which is the passive part, then we will be able to unlock or develop our wisdom, our intrinsic nature from there. Yes. I'm not thinking about, well, okay. Last time I meditated is this morning, is just now. And I drank a lot of tea this morning. And I can feel my mind is really going a little bit wild this morning. And yeah, I can feel that. But the thing about drinking tea, of course, even in meditation hall, we have tea ceremonies, we have a tea meditation. And in a longer period of time, like a 7-day meditation retreat, they do serve tea at the middle of a meditation session. And I found out that although I started out with a much more chaotic state of mind when I started to sit down, but I found that it's also quicker for me. I don't know if it's because of the tea, to really sort of calm myself down. And I like started to count the breath. And I can feel that when I start to count the breath, it's much more shorter, as in it's like going crazy because of the tea, of the caffeine. But after a while, it really sort of settled down. I mean, when you go through that process, the breath I felt is longer, much more settled. So that's just my everyday experience from meditation. Nothing special, but when you really think about it, it's kind of profound. As in, you can use meditation as a way to, it's sort of let your mind settle by itself. You're not actually doing a lot, just settles, and you just need to count your breath. It's not about counting a breath, but it actually helps you in that process. Yeah. Yes.
Like I was pretty calm, but there was still stuff going on, but I had to just let myself get back to center. Just let yourself go back in and not like force yourself to be, oh, I'm meditating.
Mm-hmm.
Just feel it. Mm-hmm. Center myself right here, I'll be okay eventually. Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It took me maybe 10-15 minutes, but I got there. Mm-hmm. So I think just being patient with myself when that's happening is the best option.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think it's the first time that we're having meditation class over here. which is much more closer to the public space. You have like tourist visitors just walking around just outside the corridor. So it serves as a challenge. It doesn't mean that it's obstruct you, but it's a challenge. It's a challenge that you can sort of gauge yourself, how good you are from disassociating yourself from that distraction of you're being distracted. Okay, it's fine. Just come back and focusing upon the things that you're instructed to do. Because I remember there was a retreat that actually happened at the same time as one of our, I think it's also Halloween, and we have kids from Shilai school coming up, and they are having trick or treat and treating in our temple. It's at the middle of day because I think a lot of parents would feel that it's safer for them to trick or treat in the temple, and so the kids are going crazy. They're playing games, and we're having a retreat over here. So at the end, what I share with them is that, well, this serves as a challenge, and you can really examine whether you, because of course this is an external factor. Kids are shouting, screaming. This is an external factor, but there's also an internal factor that we might not be aware of. What are the internal dialogues, monologues that we have inside? Are you asking yourself, okay, I'm here for a retreat, I'm here to meditate, so why why is it this like this Halloween activity is happening at the same time? Why this, why that? And you might start to go crazy. But you should actually focusing on this internal process. You should be mindful of this internal process. And when you're mindful of it, then you can start to work on it. You can't change much of the external factor, but this internal one, you have better control over it. You can work on it. You can train it. And so that's what I shared with the participants of the retreat. Yes, Sandra.
Can you give an example of thoughts that occur in an equanimous state of mind?
Equanimity or equanimous state of mind. I always approach it as in a much more scientific way, like when we draw graphs, like in our high school, middle school, when we draw graphs, there's the positive side as well as the negative side, like a sign, when we're learning maths. So when we draw a sign, there is the positive side as well as the negative side. It goes up, it goes down, just like how life is. But if we look at it, those ups and downs, if you just sort of bring it together, they are equal. So when they are equal, the result is just the same. It's just zero. And that sameness, that equal state is what we call equanimity. There's ups and downs, but if you're mindful, that is equanimity. You are able to find equanimity over there because in Heart Sutra, when we always chant about it, there's no pure and impure, no arising, no ceasing. It's basically talking about this. There's no arising and no ceasing. It sort of balances itself. It equates itself. So there's no ups and downs. There's just this true state of equanimity. Following me? Oh, there's a question in the chat. Is it possible to follow the meditation class online? I believe so, because we do have a Zoom happening at the same time. So please go online to register. It's at the same place that the registration website is the same place as this class that we have right now. So you can still register for it, and after the registration, our IT staff we will send you a link to our meditation class. Yep. Any other questions? We still have 5 more minutes. Any? If there's there's another one. Yes, I can register on weekend. We will. Okay, yeah. Staff answered that. Okay, so any other questions? If there are none, then thank you everyone for coming to our class. Next week, we will have another class at the 4th. Is it the 4th? 4th of November, 4th of November, or is it the 3rd of November?
Posted the site where you can.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Okay.
4th.
Right. Okay. Right. Thank you, everyone. And we will see everyone again next week. I believe it's 3rd or the 4th. Forgot. It's next Saturday.
4th, yeah.
Okay. It's the 4th. Okay. All right. So thank you, everyone. We'll see each other again next week. Okay. All right. Bye. Have a great day.
Thank you, Venerable. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.